Hi, everybody. We are halfway through the fall semester, and I wanted just to send some mid-semester follow-ups as you're teaching and engaging with your students. You're most likely in your groove with teaching, and the students have kind of gotten used to the patterns and things that have been established in your teaching. We are going to get into the winter months, which means that they may start getting a little bit more tired and may start to fade on you in this later part of the semester. So I wanted to share a couple things that might be helpful and just a few principles that might help you as you navigate your teaching. As we do that, I just want to focus on our emphasis has been on inviting diligent learning, and two things: helping learners to take responsibility for their learning and encouraging learners to share truths that they are learning. Those two things I want to address in a little bit of a roundabout way and to share a few things with you. When I was teaching my first semester of seminary, I had a wonderful administrator, and he came to observe my class. And after we had a class, he came up to the whiteboard and he drew a circle and he said, "Adam, I want you to make a pie chart here and determine how much of your class was you speaking compared to your students speaking." And it caused me to reflect and to think, and I started to realize, I think I was kind of taking more of this opportunity to pour information into the students rather than having them have the opportunity to learn for themselves and to engage and to share. And so I wanted to just give you a moment to look at these graphs right here. And if you want to pause the video in a moment, I welcome you to do so. And just consider, in your last class that you taught, which of these circles best describes your engagement? How much of your lesson was you speaking compared to your students speaking or doing something? Now, as you do that, there's no perfect circle here, okay? The Sermon on the Mount was not an opportunity where Jesus was, hey, let's get down and share with each other. It was a lecture-style teaching. There were other teaching moments where he was engaged and students played a bigger role. So there is no perfect circle, but just an opportunity to ponder and think, what did I share compared to what did students share, and how are they engaged? So I'd invite you just to pause that for a minute and consider your last lesson, and then to ask yourself, why? Why was my lesson that way? And there's a variety of reasons that could be the case, and maybe that's because of some of the methods you felt you were going to teach that were valuable. There is a place for instance, lecture style teaching and teaching that way and kind of sharing things that way in an engaging way. In early morning seminaries or late evening seminaries or even online, you may start to lose students after a while of losing their engagement if we only use that method. So just to keep in mind a few things about your lesson. Once again, there is no ideal pie chart there, but just to consider how much of it was me talking, and is there a way to increase student engagement in what we're doing? Especially with seminary, we're really trying to develop that and to get them along on that way. Elder Bednar taught, teaching is not talking and telling. Rather, teaching is observing, listening, and discerning, so then we know what to say. I would invite you to pause the video and think about that and consider, what does he really mean that it's not talking and telling? And how do I balance my mode of teacher presentation with student engagement and with what the students are being asked to do? So I just want to invite you to consider that. Now, when we invite diligent learning for the students, there's a couple of things that can help with this. And it really comes down to our lesson preparation. You're going to determine, as you prepare a lesson, how you're going to teach something and what you're going to teach. And you need to determine which of these is going to come first. So I want to just ask two questions. Well, what happens if lesson preparation is too focused on the what we teach? Or what happens when lesson preparation is too focused on the how we're going to teach? I'd invite you to pause the video and think about that as well. When you consider what to teach, we're talking what topics, what principles, what scriptures, what prophetic quotes are we going to use? And then the how to teach is, well, what are the questions? What are the activities and teaching methods that I'm going to use to present those topic principles and scriptures? If you consider, if we just focus so much on what to teach, then oftentimes our lessons become very teacher-focused and teacher-centered. And sometimes that's the hardest part, is to figure out, what am I going to teach? I remember teaching and spending hours trying to prepare, and then I'd go into the classroom and I'd be ready. I'd be like, hey, I have all this material, and then I hadn't thought about, what I'm trying to teach. Sometimes if we focus on the how to teach and we don't really have our what, then we're taking kind of like sometimes we use a game or a method, and we're kind of cramming the principles and the scriptures into that method, and it may not be the best method to get that through. I would invite you, as you consider student engagement and inviting diligent learning, to try to balance those two things. How do I spend my time thinking about what I'm going to teach? What are the principles? And the curriculum is a great helper here. But then once you figure out, okay, here's what I need to get across, or here's what I hope the students will discover, and then how do I help them to discover it? What learning activities do I need to put in place so that the students can then go engage and learn that way? And what teaching methods can I use? If I can balance my how and my what, I'm able to invite diligent learning in a pretty powerful way. Once again, if I get a little imbalanced, and I know sometimes we're just doing the best we can with the time we've got. But if we have the time and we're able to try to figure out the how and the what and balance that, student engagement will happen. I hope in sharing this, it takes pressure off of you as you teach. Sometimes we put so much pressure on us as teachers to fill the time or to make sure that I have everything planned out. Sometimes I find my best lesson experiences are when I know what my what is and I have an open how and what I'm going to teach, and I've planned it so that the discussion becomes open. Sometimes we avoid some of these learning activities or things that will pull the students out. Sometimes we may not trust them enough in what they're doing. But I hope that as you plan your how, that you'll recognize most times the students will find the things in the scriptures that you're hoping they find anyway. And oftentimes they'll find things that will help, that will be relevant to them that you hadn't thought of. As you think about student engagement and as you navigate that, will you just remember that we're teaching students, not lessons. If I start to teach lessons, that I could just repeat that lesson experience, doesn't matter who the students are in the class, then I'm just presenting material. And once again, we're not trying to get through all the material. We're trying to help the doctrine to set in the hearts of the students. And one of the best ways to do that is to set up an environment where they can learn for themselves and come to the Savior for themselves and then share those truths. As we balance our how and our what, and as we recognize that we teach students, not lessons, I think we can invite diligent learning in the lives of your students. And I think the second half of the semester, you can keep working on that and keep engagement high during a time when engagement usually fades in a semester. So thank you for all that you're doing and for all the effort that you're putting in. Just a couple of principles that may help you along the way.